bit of content, and this one's going to be a bit different. It's kind of along the same vein of what I've done for the last couple of weeks, where I've taken a subject and I've broken it down. So this one is a bit, can be a bit all over the place, but the general theme is, I don't know why, but it seems like there was a lot of players who were expecting 4.0 to come out this year. Now, I could understand if it was based on the on one of the letter from the chairman posts that was made, and they only focused on that, which I actually touch on. I'll be linking that Spectrum post, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to link. I only have the URL prepped a bit better than this, but I'm going to link where this starts. Well, here's the thing, Fran. We were all expecting that. We were all expecting 4.0 to come out 3 years ago. You know, like what was it? When we got 3.0, it was supposed to be like a bloody, you know, huge gameplay milestones being added every 3 months. What was it 3.2 was supposed to get like fucking bloody salvaging and all that sort of stuff, and we only got it like at the start of this year. But that's not our fault. We were told that they were doing that, so we all just assumed and trusted that CIG knew what they were on about. Right? Right? We all know better now. But this kind of starts it. So we start here. Communicate the 4.0 delay. It's become clear that 4.0 is not coming this year, and that we're getting 3.21 instead via CIG comments. This should be addressed now, because as it stands, it looks like the bad news is being delayed until after the CitizenCon and IAE sales. 4.0 was never announced to be coming out at the end of this year. And I'm going to go to the next Spectrum post to talk about this, because this person also brings it up. Now, grab this one here. This one's a bit ambiguous. I need to work on the title so that people are more inclined to engage with the post. This is this was the first post that I found, and this kind of got me started investigating what was going on. This is what I was spending a couple of hours doing before the stream. So I'm going to link this thread here if you guys want to have a read of it. But I'm also going to read this one out. So, a letter published on May the 18th, 2022. So this was last year, halfway through last year. This is the most recent one I could Google. In this snippet, it says we should have had server meshing at the latest Q1 of 2023. We are now pushing into 2024 with no word on server meshing or 4.0. Can we expect a similar letter soon telling us Q1 of 2025? I don't know what to trust anymore if we can't even trust the words straight from the mouth. They also made an edit, also a snippet from the 30th of December 2022 letter, the most recent, which says the exact same thing. No, it does not. It actually says something different. And this is a problem, because this is actually spreading a bit of misinformation. So what I did was I went and looked up these letters, because they provide a screenshot, and this is a problem that I have. If you're gonna fucking post something on Spectrum and make an assertion, post a link to the the information source as well, because all it does is just make it look like you're supposed to, that you're making an assertion and expecting people to believe you because you're saying it. No one knows who the fuck you are. No one cares who the fuck you are. If you're going to make an assertion and say CIG said this, then provide the proof of them saying it. Otherwise, all you're doing is spreading misinformation. And yes, server meshing was supposed to be slated for ETF. So we're actually going to go to the letters from the chairman, because that's where they came from. So it should be this one first. Oh, I think I just moved my spot. So this one is where they were talking about. So this particular one here, I'm going to link it for you guys. I'm dropping bloody heaps of links, by the way. When I put this across to YouTube, I will be including these links as well. But I'm trying to kind of get through this fast because I've only given myself half an hour to go through this. Anyway, so this is from the 18th of March. This is the snippet that this person took here. So if I go search our current, here we go. So it starts here. This is what they're talking about here. So this is from May, or roughly the middle of last year. The current goal is to introduce server meshing and 4.0 as an early technical preview to Evocati testers in the PTU at the end of Q4 this year, allowing our most ardent players to help us start testing server meshing so we can refine and polish it for release. But this is heavily conditioned on how well/easy the persistent entity streaming rollout goes. That's a key sentence right there that seems to be ignored. Does anybody remember how 3.18 started? How well that went when it finally went fucking live? CIG was struggling with persistent entity streaming for the entirety of bloody 2022. And when we finally got persistent entity streaming, which is a dependency before we can move into server meshing, CIG essentially went, alright, we're putting it in there. Smooth like running over ice. It's like smooth like running over ice on the side of a mountain with jagged rocks everywhere. And you've got 2 broken legs and bloody you're blind. And you've got a head cold so you can't hear or smell anything. In the middle of a blizzard. You know? Like it's fucking, it was bad. But that seems to be forgotten by these people. So their goal was to have server meshing in the hands of the Evocati by the end of 2022. You only followed official CIG communication. Would you know if persistent entity streaming went good or bad? You wouldn't have a bloody clue. They mentioned it. They said that it didn't go as well as what they wanted. It was in a, I believe it was in one of their ISCs. I think it was the one about server meshing, you know, the part 1 that we all got, and then we were sitting there with that, we're still waiting with bated breath for part 2. Which we'll get soon, guys. Probably at CitizenCon. Fucking, oh god. As I say, you gotta be a glutton for punishment if you play this game. And just as much of a glutton for punishment if you want to believe CIG and everything that they're saying. It's not that they're intentionally lying, it's that, you know, I believe that they have big visions, big goals, and they're always looking at the world through rose-tinted glasses, and the reality that they are facing is that, you know, they understand it, they see it, they just are like, we're not going to let that get in our way, and, you know, they push, you know, aim for the stars, and then when they don't reach them, they still keep trying to push. And they also, you know, as part of their management plan for making sure that they don't get off track, they keep Chris Roberts away from the public as much as possible. Now, so be warned that it has a high chance of slipping into Q1 next year. So that's the start of this year that they were talking about. Now, the reality is that we didn't get persistent entity streaming until the end of last year, start of this year. And that was roughly around the time that we got Chris Roberts and his next letter from the chairman, and this one was dated the 30th of December 2022, linked right there. This is the update, and this is where they effectively told us that server meshing is being pushed back. And I'm not going to lie, when I read this letter from the chairman, I was disheartened at the time. I'm sitting there going, holy shit, another fucking year. Let's see if I can find it, because I made actually links to it. Static server meshing. Right, so let's look up static. Here we go. Here we go, because I actually talk about it leading up to this particular comment. So if you look up the word static server meshing when you go to that page, you'll be able to read up on, you know, their plan for server meshing, and this is their timeline that they actually start talking about, which, you know, I made it linked up here, but he doesn't really go into much detail. And once again, they've just linked it here. They haven't, or they've just quoted it here. They haven't provided any links, which is important. You're going to make an assertion, provide the links. We are aiming to put static server meshing and Pyro into the hands of players in the 4th quarter of 2023. Mind you, this was said at the end of last year, where they were finally putting persistent entity streaming into the game. PES was in the PTU for 3.18, and this was well before 3.18 had gone live and the servers shat themselves. So they had no idea how bad it was going to get. Well, actually, we assume that they had no idea that they knew how bad it was going to get. For all we knew, they knew exactly how bad it was going to be, and they just went, alright, we're just going to have to rip the band-aid off this one and deal with it. Anyway, we're aiming to put static server meshing and Pyro into the hands of the players in the 4th quarter of 2023. The large caveat with this goal is that complicated engineering work that involves a completely new paradigm, requires a host of new back-end services, and technology is hard to estimate and schedule accurately, as the issues and problems that can come up along the way are hard to foresee, as no one has implemented the system before, and plans rarely survive contact with the users, especially at scale. This has been true for PES, as it's no secret that we are hoping to have Alpha 3.18 and PES released to live by the end of the year, as opposed to just the PTU. Delays in finalizing 3.18 and PES impact the team's ability to start on the next stage, and we will have the unknowns of how PES performs after months of heavy load and people seeing exactly how much space junk they can leave around. So, into the hands of players the 4th quarter of 2023. Doesn't say anything about 4.0. Problem is that we all know that server meshing was a gate to 4.0, and that server meshing was also a gate to Pyro. Now, when they say put it in the hands of the players, that doesn't mean live. That could be PTU. They just read for players in, 2023. Yeah. And the other thing as well is, like, this letter for the chairman was released before 3.18 went live, and the server's essentially dying. It was nearly, what, 2 weeks of just the servers being shit. Now, for all we know, you know, they're aiming to put static server meshing and Pyro into the hands of players. That could just be ETF, like last year's plan was. You know, their plan for last year was to put server meshing in the hands of ETF before everybody else got it. They could be doing the exact same thing and they just shifted the plan 12 months. More than likely though, and this is something that I don't think a lot of people fully understand, more than likely they're saving this information for CitizenCon. Because realistically, the focus for CIG has been Squadron 42. That is their main effort. And Star Citizen kind of just, you know, gets the scraps from Squadron 42 when it can, you know, get them. But the tech, you know, the groundwork for all the tech that Star Citizen's going to need to be able to handle the MMO part of how it functions, that's still being worked on. And we get, you know, the occasional other mechanic. Star Citizen is a funding for Squadron 43. For 42. Yeah, it's going to be the funding for Squadron 43, 44, 45. They'll just keep milking that cash cow. Like, CIG didn't say that they were going to give us 4.0 at the end of this year. They definitely didn't say it was going to be live. I can see how people can come to that conclusion because of static server meshing and Pyro being the static server meshing essentially being the trigger point for 4.0 and Pyro being a dependency for server meshing. But, you know, hands of players in the fourth quarter of 2023 could just be ETF like they had planned last year. That's where people need to stop jumping to these conclusions. Like, it's not healthy, it doesn't help. I know, like, people are, like, really wanting, you know, the game to be finally finished. Everybody wants that. But you're not helping yourself. You're not helping your mentality, like, you know, going back to the, previous bit of content that we reacted to where old mate was talking about purpose at Star Citizen, you know, people saying, just come back in the next patch. It's like, it's perfectly legit advice. Even if you are finding purpose in Star Citizen, you may get disheartened because it's like, oh, fucking, it's just going to be the same thing for the next 12 months. So, like, piracy encounters do become stale, or can become stale. You know, like, a lot of the hits that we've done over the last 3 months could have been, you know, we might as well have been pirating the equivalent of NPCs. And them Alt F4ing out of the server was, you know, essentially that AI crashing and just disappearing. You know, how long can you expect people to continuously engage in that sort of gameplay before people, you know, get bored of it? It's actually one of the reasons why, you know, I watched, you know, I was hoping that Starfield would be worthwhile, but unfortunately, it seems like, yeah, good old Starfield hasn't quite lived up to the hype. I'm quite confident that there's a lot of people out there enjoying it for what it is. But for myself personally, when it comes to Starfield in comparison to Star Citizen, I'll take Star Citizen any day. Starfield from a game design perspective has way more complete loops, but it should, because it's a single player game, so you don't need to worry about networking code or anything like that. So you can create all these loops in isolation, you just got to make sure your AI is on point, which, you know, it's not really anything. Starfield should just be called Field? No, Loading Field. Or Screen Field. You know, like when you think about it, like the process of, I was explaining it to somebody from my work, you know, how Starfield plays out, because they were interested but they hadn't picked up the game yet. And it's like, it's just a lot of loading screens, man. Just so many loading screens. Which is a problem, because, you know, like you want to maintain engagement and immersion in your game, which is something that Star Citizen even in its buggy state, does really well. Now, there was one other little bit of... There was another bit of content I was going to tack onto this. Alright, yes. Now, I'm going to link to it first. This is a video from Cameron. It's going to be the only video for the entire stream. And I don't know about you guys, but I've noticed that he's on a bit of a warpath against CIG. He's a bit salty about how Star Citizen's going, the progress, or lack of. So, let me go back over to here. This is Cameral's video, and it's from, like, it's titled 319.1 Aaron Roberts internal email, Starfield, and no 4.0 this year. I've already watched this, so kind of know how it's going to go. But I wanted to share this with you guys because I thought it was a bit interesting. It's actually information from the Star Citizen links, but it's less about the game and more about internal company stuff. So I don't feel as bad talking about this particular topic because realistically, this is shit that we'd probably find out anyway.
Hello everyone. Once again, the Pipeline channel on Discord has something very interesting. This is supposed to be an internal email sent by Aaron Roberts. And he's talking about 3.20 and 3.21 and no word about 4.0 anymore. So looks like no pyro this year. As always, take this with a grain of salt because we cannot know if this really comes from Aaron Roberts, but it looks like it.
Hi everyone. Starfield's release has given us all a massive opportunity. From early gameplay reports, what is has shown.
What's it doing 480p? Alright, you all should be able to read that now. Well, not really, but yeah.
Is how much more advanced and sophisticated our tech is, above and beyond we do it in multiplayer too, and how only Star Citizen can and will give players the opportunity to live and breathe in a huge open universe. No loading screens, no boundaries, limitless exploration. Live the dream. Because of our tech drive last year with persistence and the issues we have had to deal with through 3.18 and 3.19, 3.20 is our first real opportunity to really reignite our community's engagement, as well as hopefully start to bring in players who had higher expectations of Starfield. But it does not stop at 3.20 for this year. We have got the huge opportunity to continually improve our experience through our 3.20.1 patch for CitizenCon, our 3.20.2 patch for IAE, ending with our 3.21 patch for end of the year. Let's remind our community why they invested their time and money in Star Citizen. Let's build their excitement up again as we go into our first CitizenCon in 4 years. This is an opportunity we cannot miss.
I'm going to pause there before Cameron jumps in. So the dates that are essentially the patches are gated, and the 0.1 patch for CitizenCon, the 0.2 patch for IAE. Normally, when these events happen, CIG also does ship sales and releases, new straight to flyable ships. So we'll probably see some unannounced ships show up then, as a method of trying to motivate people and to buy up on Star Citizen. So referral programs and all that sort of stuff. If you've been tracking Star Citizen for the past few years, you know what I'm talking about. The usual thing that they do. Now, it's kind of like the title is clickbaity because it doesn't say, Cameron says no 4.0 this year, and it's like, well, CIG didn't have that planned out, to be 4.0. They were aiming for static server meshing and pyro, which they've told us in the past are the gates for 4.0, but they could be literally putting that into the hands of the ETF. And for all we know, like, they could put a 4.0 patch in the hands of the ETF whilst 3.2.1 is in the hands of everybody else, and server meshing and pyro are in the ETF testing. and they're just getting hammered away for like 3 months straight? We don't know. No one knows. CIG does, but they've got a better idea. But it's something to be cognizant of. CIG does have this habit where they go quiet and they stop talking about things, which is either indicative that they have it, want to try and save the information for CitizenCon, or they want to they're pivoting and they don't want to say anything because bad news is always bad for a business. Now we've got an ad break starting in 2.5 minutes, and we've got 3.5 minutes to go.
Well, let's unpack this. I still hope that Star Citizen will be a huge success and a fantastic game one day. No loading screens in Star Citizen, well, kinda. After a jump you don't have control over your ship for several seconds, but still this is a valid point. Why would anyone who has played Starfield look into Star Citizen? Yes, no loading screens, you can land everywhere, you can fly freely, which is very nice, but you also have the same repeating and boring and quite often very buggy missions. Lots of first iterations tier zeros thrown into the game in a half-assed state at best and left rotting in the rain for years. Star Citizen has one of the worst UIs in history of gaming, just look at Star Map or inventory system. Star Citizen has this terrible inner thought system. Picking up an item is quick and easy in most games, but not in Star Citizen. Star Citizen only has static worlds, we can only manipulate a very few items, almost nothing reacts to bullets. We have one tedious time sink on top of another tedious time sink, like immersive metro and elevator rides.
So, I don't know who's the context of this text here that Cameral's reading out. This is either his stuff or it's coming from somewhere else. I've just smoothed the ads for the next 5 minutes as well so that we can finish this off.
We still cannot even decide to spawn into the spaceport. We lose our items on death. Usually you cannot go back to your body or you get looted by someone else. Quite often we lose our ships because of bugs like running into invisible asteroids. Then you have to claim and wait 10 to 60 minutes until your ship is available again. Star Citizen is still missing basic mechanics and professions in year 11. I remember this very well in summer 2017.
Liddy, do we know when wipe is happening? No, we don't, Mikey. CIG will tell us a couple of weeks before the patch is supposed to go live. But then again, they've done it where they've told us a couple of days. I think one time they didn't tell us and they just did it. So normally when it comes to patch or new patch iterations, you'll normally lose all your consumables, but you'll keep your credits to the ships that you bought with in-game and all that sort of stuff. But CIG do try to announce it. Just the best mentality to approach a new patch is just assume that everything's going to get wiped and then be happy if it doesn't. Normally when people are playing the last few weeks of a live patch, they just focus on having fun and just doing dumb shit.
When we were waiting for 3.0, I told some online friends, I will show you 3.0 when we get it. I am very happy they never asked. Besides testing, checking out new things and making fun videos, I have zero desire to play this train wreck of a tech demo in year 11. Starfield is not a perfect game, far from it, but if you, Aaron, really believe anyone coming from Starfield would enjoy Star Citizen in its current form, you are deeply mistaken. Again, I'm not a hater, I like the idea of Star Citizen a lot, I spent a lot of money on this game, but if I look what we have in year 11 with $600 million, I am not exactly impressed. I hope you found this interesting. Let me know what you think.
Alright. Just going to pause here on this screen and go back through what Cameron was talking about, because I'm pretty sure this is Cameron's points. Same few repeating and boring quite often buggy missions. Yeah, but they've been adding more missions. There's only so much that they're going to be able to add until server resources are going to be able to pick up. Lots of first iteration tier zeros thrown into the game in a half-assed state at best and left rotting in the rain for years. Yeah, no shit, they're still building it. Like, don't forget, they're also building Squadron 42. Like, there's 2 games being built at once here. It's dumb. As far as I'm concerned, CIG should be focused 100% on Star Citizen, because that's their fucking money, you know, that's their cash cow, but Chris Roberts wants his game. One of the worst UIs in the history of gaming, just look at the star map or inventory system. I don't see an issue with the inventory system. Star map's terrible. It needs a lot of work, but we've also had that star map pretty much since 3.0 came out, and it hasn't had much work done on it at all. But yeah, the inventory system, it's good enough. It does what it needs to do. You may not be able to see the item UI all the time, but what more do you want out of a fucking inventory system? Attach stuff, detach stuff, move stuff from one box to another. Terrible inner thought system. Picking up an item is quick and easy process in other games, but not in Star Citizen. Yeah, because it's a fucking server-based game with some level of server authority. Like in other games, they relinquish some control over to the clients to provide a bit of speed, and then they have the server authenticate. Whereas in Star Citizen, they're still working that process out. Static worlds, we can only manipulate a few items, almost nothing reacts to bullets. So what? One tedious time sink on top of another tedious time sink, like immersive metro and elevator rides. We cannot even decide to spawn into the spaceport. It's a design decision. They could make it so that that could happen, but they chose not to. And yeah, just what do you want? Teleporting around? Like, it's designed the way that it is. Losing our items on death, you cannot usually go back to... pause this incoming ad break. We lose our items on death. Usually you cannot go back to your body or you get looted by someone else. Yeah, no shit, because that's the game, the way that the game's built. That's an actual design choice. Quite often we lose our ships because of bugs like running into invisible asteroids and you have to claim, wait 10 to 60 minutes until your ship is available again. That's pretty rich. Like, that's 10 to 60 isn't all of them. You can expedite. I know some of the larger ships you're waiting closer to the 60-minute mark, even after expediting the claim. But, you know, shit happens. Like, the game's not finished. Star Citizen is still missing basic mechanics and professions in year 11. No shit, because they're building 2 games at once. Back in 2017, when we were waiting for 3.0, I told some online friends I'll show you 3.0 when we get it. I'm happy they never asked. Why? Why does that even matter? King Pekin. Hi, I'm new to Star Citizen. Can I be a mage? Yes, you can. And 100% be a mage. There's this item called a multi-tool. That's your wand. You want to attach the multi-tool tractor beam of movement, and that allows you to... You point it at objects, at a lot of different objects. You can move them around remotely like a Jedi. Is this game free to play? Only if you sell pictures of yourself on the internet and then use that money to buy the pictures that Star Citizen sells. Will you get death threats after reporting a homophobic 50-year-old? Only if you make the report to the homophobic 50-year-old. Alright. Besides checking out new things and making fun videos, I have zero desire to play this train wreck of a tech demo in year 11 because you only focus on making videos. That's why. Instead of trying to play the train wreck of a tech demo. And that's the problem there, is the mentality that's being displayed. You're playing this, you're talking about this being a train wreck of a tech demo instead of trying to think of it like a game and play it like a game. Starfield is not a perfect game, far from it, but if you, Aaron, really believe anyone coming from Starfield would enjoy Star Citizen in its current form, you are deeply mistaken. Yeah, he's probably right there, because Star Citizen still isn't finished. People will be amazed if they get to play Star Citizen and it's not, like, everybody has their Star Citizen moment, and you know what I'm talking about. Everybody has a different one. Walking out onto a planet, or going out to your ship, taking off, going into space, going back down to a planet, landing, and then looking around, getting back in your ship, and then flying over the area that you're at, seeing a sunset on one moon, jump to another one, see the same sunset on a different moon or planet. It's one of those things where it's like, we will see a lot of people come across from Starfield. It's not going to be straight away, though. I think the sense of urgency that Aaron is giving this is probably a bit ambitious, but he's not wrong. Like, people are going to play Starfield. They're going to be like, I want more, but I'm tired of Starfield. They'll do all the mods that they can. I saw that there was an EVA mod for Starfield now. You can go EVA outside of your ship, and they reckon that you could also build on asteroids, which is cool. But, like, when people want more and they want to be able to play Starfield but with their friends, they'll find Star Citizen. And hopefully it's in a better state to keep and retain those players. Because if it's not, we'll probably see, just more content being made about how shit Star Citizen is. But, 4.0 wasn't going to come out this year. Hopefully I'm wrong. I'm really hoping that I'm wrong. But it's more than likely not. Star Citizen's progress has always been glacial, but it's always moved forward.